Ego, an artist's greatest asset or biggest enemy. Ego isn't the villain, it's the cost of greatness, but only if you survive it. Ego can push you to create your best work or make you crash and burn. So is it your greatest weapon or your biggest curse? In today's video, I want to highlight how ego can affect your artistic ability in two different ways. One, it can be your worst obstacle to your artistic growth and you don't even know it. Or two, the driving force that propels you to break your limits and aim for the stars. First off, let's talk about the hindrance your ego causes, stopping you from improving. Sometimes we as artists believe that we are above our actual skill level, overestimating our abilities, becoming so egocentric that we reject the constructive feedback, or what is better yet known as criticism. So egocentric that when reality finally hits and we realize that we are not as good as we should be, we get hurt and torn by that fact. We become so egocentric that we believe that where we are now is our peak, not remembering that every artist should be just a humble student of the craft. Notice I said humble. When someone is humble, they are open to the idea of constructive criticism as long as it's aimed at helping them improve. It's not about seeking feedback constantly, but instead being receptive when it comes from a place of genuine intent. There was someone who was a member of my Discord server, link in the description by the way, and this artist believed that they were so good that they didn't need any form of constructive criticism, but instead that everyone else needed their critiques and opinions. And truth be told, this artist was okay in my opinion, but in no way, shape or form were they good enough to have an ego of that degree, or were they exempt from constructive criticism. Nor do I believe that they had the egocentric passion to be the best, meaning that they were not their biggest critique and they would not push themselves beyond their limits to be the best they can be. Instead, they believed that they have already made it, that they were the best, and that simply wasn't the case. And that level of limitation that they placed on themselves that made them believe that they had already peaked was doing them more bad than good, and they didn't even know it. And I'm not saying you should constantly walk out and seek criticism 24/7, as I said before, because too much noise can be distracting. I believe a large sum of your artistic results are up for you to decide whether it's good or not, because the only vision that matters is yours. But sometimes taking an opinion from someone else you look up to or from a source you trust in can provide valuable insights. Because even if you are your biggest critique and you see every flaw, there still might just be an error or a point of improvement that you overlooked that someone else might be able to see. Or even if you did see that flaw, at least someone is now reinforcing that point of concern, which can give you confirmation of your own perceptions. So it can be from a stranger, a mentor, or your peers. Heck, even your damn dog. It doesn't matter. Constructive criticism can be beneficial. And don't get me wrong, there will be a time where you start to find yourself seeking less and less opinions on your work. It's only natural, because you will develop a refined critical eye, but only after you embrace being a humble student that you can achieve that level of skill and refinement. And I know some of you might disagree with all that I'm saying, and that's fine. It's okay for us to have a conversation in the comment section talking about all our different viewpoints and personal beliefs. But to summarize, your ego could be the crucial thing holding you back from artistic success. That is true. But on the flip side, it could even be the reason you are so artistically successful in the first place. Let me explain. Remember at the start of the video when I mentioned, ego isn't the villain, it's the cost of greatness, but only if you survive it. When your ego is killing your work is when you can't tolerate any form of constructive criticism, neither external or internal. When your ego helps you is when you're your biggest critique and you see what must be done to improve your work. You see all the flaws and you do whatever is needed to get better. And this can be seen happening in many great artists that you know of. Take Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo for example. To many people, and evidently so, two of the greatest artists to ever live, and they were both known to not be the best at accepting external criticism. But one thing for sure is that they were very self-critical, always pushing the boundaries of their work to achieve the greatest artistic level anyone has ever seen before. But it might have come at a cost, perhaps of that of their sanity. Perhaps they weren't always pleased with the results of their work, driving them down this rabbit hole of displeasure and depression, even though their work to many, and still is, simply magnificent. They would do things that many wouldn't dare to do just to get better. For Christ's sake, both of them were dissecting human corpses for the sake of learning anatomy, so they can understand the human body to a level that no one else has ever seen before. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure none of them enjoyed that process. They simply did what they had to do to get better. They were meticulously observing everyone and everything to a level one might call a stalker, so that they can understand every fine detail of how something works and so that it can clearly be shown in their work. especially that of Michelangelo's sculptures, where you can see such meticulous details that some even in this modern day still are far from achieving. Veins or muscles that at first glance you might overlook due to the belief that they are small and insignificant, but then you stop and remember that this is a sculpture and that someone intentionally sculpted such a fine detail in their work just to come closer and closer to perfection. So the point is, they wanted to so badly create the greatest pieces of art that the world has ever seen that the egocentric drive to be the best pushed them to new heights, that of which no one has ever seen before. So the question is now, which one are you? The egoist that believes that they never have to improve because they themselves are already so good, or the egoist that believes that they can be and should be so much more even if it comes at the cost of their sanity to do so? So the point is, both fall right back down to criticism and being able to accept it in some way, shape, or form, whether external or internal. Criticism hurts, man, whether constructive or not. You're going to feel some sort of way even when someone is trying to help you, even if they're coming from a place of genuine intent, by pointing out the things you are doing wrong. You are only human. Of course, your emotions are valid, but learn to put things into consideration. Learn to hear someone else's opinion about you and your work. Sure, you might apply what they're saying directly to your work or yourself, and if it's coming from a typically good source or a source of genuine intent, at the very least you can have it up to consideration. Because I want to be careful, not every bit of criticism, whether constructive or not, you should place on your mental. Only consider and use the ones that align with your goals, perhaps to become a better actor, musician, animator, painter, whatever that might be. So hopefully this video puts something into perspective for you to consider. Don't be afraid to share your opinions in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the Patreon and Discord link below in the description. And as always, happy drawing. I'm watching you from afar and I'm rooting for you. Peace.